you have come to understand this physical octave to the best of your ability through the pursuit of your intellect, through your emotional body and the riptides of currents that register the highs and the lows, not to say anything of the densest of the bodies, your physical body, that has borne out the trials and errors of so many incarnations, as returning karma has ruptured upon the physical octave. If this is true for your own vehicles of consciousness, would it not stand to reason that the earth herself was bearing the burdens of the collective karma of so many life streams for so long a time? I, the Maha Chohan, understand well that this could be confounding, confusing, and in many cases, the individual contemplating these situations might decide to run and hide, burying their head beneath the sands of time, and not elevating their consciousness sufficiently to even be aware of the cause. Today you have taken up the concerns of civilizations when they have faced the limit of their pursuit of the intellect, of the physical adaptation of life. Much of mankind today, in this era, are facing these same dilemmas, not knowing which way to turn. What is the answer? Short of ensuing wars that would take the attention away from what was the cause and the need of the hour, so as to mask the very intent that should be pursued. Blessed hearts, this has occurred in many civilizations, where when faced with an uncertainty, there has been all manner of the sowing of the seeds of war, so that there can be the cover-up of the lack of what is the course that should be pursued. You can study this as you pore over recorded history. But what is one individual to do? Surely, when approached by the outer considerations of your own ego, your own emotional well-being, the strength of your physical body, the wealth within your grasp, you find that you, in this outer vehicle of consciousness, are unprepared, incapable of answering such a vast need. But this is why we, the ascended and cosmic beings, has stepped forth to deliver the instruction on your mighty I Am presence, the presence of God that is you in the realms of perfection, that has not been changed, save to accrue more attainment and mastery, more light and momentum of God victory throughout the ages. And unbeknownst to the sons and daughters of God who are in embodiment at present, each time you make a decision in life, it is either a correct decision or a wrong decision. The correct decisions build one upon another as a momentum of God victory, where the wrong decisions can likewise mount up. If the spiral is not stopped, if there is not enough of the balancing of those wrong decisions, they can begin to overtake even your own life and demand that a new life ensue, because you have neglected what was right before you, exhibited, yes, by some as a trial and error, by others as a loud and clear bell ringing loudly within their own heart that should be heard, adhered to, allowing change to occur in one's life. Perhaps you have thought that you could not possibly have such a grand and glorious, mighty I Am presence. For look at the circumstances of your present life. Here you are, still eking out a living, not even enjoying the profession of your choice. Perhaps in relationships that are uncomfortable, lacking in love, in respect, in harmony. And what of your health, your sense of well-being emotionally, the ability to cognize thought? All of these reporting to you lack and some diminishing capacity to embrace all of life. Do you suppose for one moment that you have a mighty I Am presence that would leave you fixed in time and space without opportunity to overcome, to gain in wisdom, learning what is right for your life stream, and what is wrong. Understanding how to move day to day from one place to another, holding on to the very sanity which you knew well as a child, but as you have grown in age, have seemed to lose. It would all be very bleak indeed if the hand of God was not at work in your life, if there was not some presence sounding the tone and vibration that all things of the physical octave are temporal, and that for you there is a way, a greater way, a more abundant way of the light of God to move through life, to have the awareness on the instant when you are about to embark upon some part of life that is not the will of God for you. I again point you to your own mighty I Am presence. This presence of God, individualized, having sent forth the heart flame of its own to live in the physical octave, building up bodies that would function under the canopy of the elemental forces of nature, that would come under the God command of that heart flame, responsive to, following the dictates of, and filled with the charge of the perfection of that heart flame. For indeed, this is the mind body, the emotional body, the physical body's intent, to be filled with that flame of God, that vibration, commanding the health, the God direction, the peace, so that there can be the presence of God right where you are. Once you have discovered how close is this presence, then you are prepared to invoke the light as the rays of God consciousness of that presence of God, not only into your own affairs, but in the affairs of the earth, the health and the well-being of the mass consciousness, the emotional body of the planet, the physical body that would report peace, so that there can be a collective consciousness of the mind of God, charting the course for the mankind of earth, there can be enough of the pressure of this mind of God, determining what is the right course to take, when there is a limitation reported to that collective mind that requires addressing, healing, a change in direction. In every civilization of recorded history, there has always come the time when change was required. Not the feeble change of the human ego, but the divine will of God to come forth. You, blessed hearts, are on the cutting edge of that great discovery of a new world. For you have already understood the teaching of the mighty I Am Presence. Many of you have already felt the surge of light coursing through your vehicles of consciousness, effecting great change in your own life, replacing an agitated anxiety, confused and confounded, and of poor health, with a body charged with light, overcome with peace and harmony, and filled with the excitement, the anticipation of the God direction from your own God presence. This is the way life is intended to be led, by the will of God, by the love of God, by the peace of understanding that comes from the wisdom of the mind of God. There has been released sufficient teaching on the power of invocation, invoking the light of God, not only into your own life, but into the collective life of God that would move through each of the elemental forces of nature and impress upon the vehicles of consciousness of the mankind of earth a greater understanding and harmony, so that there could be a stepping forth of enough of the will of God from their own God presence, embraced, internalized, functioning as a new course of change in their life. Many people desire to change the circumstances of their life. Where do you suppose that desire comes from? Is it merely to bring greater ease and comfort? For some, this may be the initial motivating factor, at least in their outer consciousness. But at the core of their being, it is the pressure of the will of God that is emanating through every vestige of conscious awareness that will hear it, perceive it, respond to it. You may not, today or even tomorrow, know how to change the circumstances of your life, let alone that of the earth. But what you do know is that the presence of God is right where you are. You need only to acknowledge it, to invoke it, and to allow room for it to come into your life. You may say you have not enough time. Time is born out of the wise use of that which is extended to you. Use well what you have today, and tomorrow will bring about an even greater opportunity. When you continue day in and day out to use wisely the talents, the opportunity, the gifts that are given to you, then you will begin to see greater and greater change. But all the while you return your gaze back to the mighty I Am Presence. For you know that that is the source of all good that comes to you. And even when the day-to-day life is busier and busier, you can acknowledge the presence of God with each step, each word, each deed, breathing in with every breath the light from your own God presence, and exhaling the God direction, God consciousness, God light that is reported by the vibration that you sow into every part of your life. Because you are grounded in the presence of God. You have not based your life upon the shifting sands of time. You are firmly fixed in the understanding that where God is, there is opportunity for God good to come forth. You have begun the process of sowing the seeds as example, as vibration for others to see that God good, not because you have such great spiritual attainment, but because you remind them of their own God presence. They too have a glorious, mighty I Am presence. They too can be in the presence of that divine nature. And they too can understand what it means to be in the will of God. As much as you in your outer consciousness are aware of history and past civilizations, can you consciously say that you would not trade places and go back in time to a simpler life, a more reflective life, a life where there was the absence of what you have come to know as modern communication, so that you would not be tempted or torn from what was the highest good for your own life stream and for those about you. Do not mistake our message to presuppose that we, the ascended and cosmic beings, shed some dispersions or doubt on modern technology. Quite on the contrary. Many of the inventions that have come forth have been accomplished because of the study of certain of the elements and how they would respond to direction from the retreats of the ascended masters. But we will be the first to remind you when those technologies are supplanting the consciousness of the mighty I Am presence. Do not lose sight of who you are, for it matters not the circumstances of the physical octaves. If you lose the goal of life, surely the pressure of the flame upon the altar of the heart should make the difference. But how many civilizations have risen and fallen because they lost sight of the presence of God? the mighty I Am Presence, the one God of all of life, is not superstition, is not some myth. You know this. When the presence of God is reported to your outer consciousness, in the blessings that have come from an unknown source to your outer mind, from some distant hand reaching out to catch you up as you were about to fall. It is the presence of your own mighty I Am that has sent forth the tone as vibration, the consciousness as a ray of God action, to stir a response to assist you, to part the way for an opportunity, to heal when no seeming remedy was present. If you were to sit in meditation with pen and paper and begin to jot down, even in this calendar year, the blessings that have come to you, how long would that list be if you were truly honest and had clarity of the presence of your own mind to see? It would be many, many, many pages long. The light of God has always been and always will be the answer. The more you are able to internalize that light, that consciousness of the mind of God, the more you are able to put the light of God to work in the small and great ways that the presence of God can only accomplish. Then you will see the consciousness of the sons and daughters of God begin to change. You will see the earth respond, and you will know that the presence of God is at work. I, the Maha Chohan, implore you to know who you are and why you are here.